Everyone. I welcome you all to the inauguration of our research cell activity, the Budding Scholars. The research cell of the college is headed by our principal, sir, and members of this cell are vice principals, Dr. Liji Santosh and Professor Sandesha Shetty, all the coordinators, and Professor Sujata Rizal and Professor Vijay Vishwakarma are also the members. Now, without wasting much time, I will call upon our principal, sir, to give his inaugural address on this occasion. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Sahana. Vice Principals, Dr. Liji Santosh and Professor Sandesh Shetty, all coordinators, and all my colleagues. At the very outset, I'm really happy, rather delighted to start once again our research cell activities so as to benefit our teaching fraternity. Now, coming to the research cell inauguration, I think we had this system a few years ago, but after our NAC cycle, first cycle, when we got A grade and all that, to some extent we have become complacent. But all of a sudden we have realized that there should not be any scope for complacency or arrogance. So once again, we have started, and it is a very good move. Now, to have the research activities in any institution, there should be so many prerequisites. So many prerequisites. What are the prerequisites? From even the institution point of view and even from the teacher's point of view, as far as the institution's point of view, there should be learning culture. There should be learning environment in the institution. And there should be learning outcome. And finally, the outcome should be appreciated by the institution in different forms. Maybe a promotion or whatever it may be. And without any doubt, I say that almost we have, to some extent, all these features in our institution. I'm always reiterating the point that there should be the research culture in the institution, then the profile of the institution will change. First of all, the institution provide all these things, and you also agree with me that we have all these features in the institution. Second prerequisite should come from the teachers. When there is an environment, then the initiative should come from the teachers. And first of all, the teachers should have the research bent of mind. So many faculty development programs are going on. So many webinars are going on. And I should enhance my knowledge. And institution is encouraging to write the papers. How to write the papers? I can consult with the seniors, my peers, and slowly, I can write the papers, I can present the papers, I can publish the papers. The initiative should come from the teachers. And at least you can present 2 quality papers every year. Because to develop a quality paper, I'm not talking about cut and paste. Your original contributions, you need at least 2 to 3 months, for which to a certain extent, the cost will be borne by your institution. So research bent of mind is required. And now, even the new education policy stresses that students should possess the 21st century skills. It's not only for students. First of all, it should be possessed by the teachers. Then only teachers can impart that skill to the students. There are 24 skills. What do you mean by the 21st century skills? But at least teachers, you should have for research, the critical thinking, creativity, scientific temper. I think one is very important, which I have forgotten. So all these are inquisitive mind. So these are the core competencies, characteristics of a good researcher. And if faculty development program is going on, and if a teacher is compelled to attend, then what is the contribution of a teacher? I'm sharing with you as one of your colleagues. Recently, we had what's called as a kind of orientation program or induction program for 2021-22. There are so many, I think, the questions raised by the teachers. Management has given the provision for that. I asked with the concerned people, is there any question relating to how can one upgrade the academic credentials? Is there any question for training and all those things? Then the concerned people said, absolutely no. I don't know from the degree college. No. So therefore, that initiative, that motivation should come from within. My dear teachers, I would like to share my own experience. I started the research process in 1995. In a very sincere way, in a humble way, I went inside the chamber of my guide. Of course, my classmate. First question I raised to him, I think around this month only, can I do the research? I was quite humble and I don't know my competency. And after 3-4 years, he openly told in the Viva examination, Mr. Shetty has received the doctorate from me. And in some cases, I made the comment that I have given the doctorate to some of my scholars. Then after that, even though he has praised it, I consider it as my responsibility to live up to the expectations of my research. Still, whenever there is some research and all that, even it is a piece of paper, I will never throw, I will read that paper because there's no full stop for research. And one can say that with arrogance, I have completed everything in research. No, absolutely no. Absolutely no. So therefore, you should have that scientific temper, research bent of mind, a humble nature, a kind of self-motivation, inquisitive mind, etc., etc. Whenever there is some program of this faculty development program or research methodology, I always quote Rudyard Kipling because I have taken sufficient inspiration from his quote. Rudyard Kipling was an Indian-born English poet. And he said in his poetry, research and poetry, an odd couple. And he says, I have always kept 6 honest serving men with me. Today, if at all, I know all these are taught by them. They are not your colleagues or peers, no. These things should be there in your mind. This is what, when, who, how, where, etc., etc. Questioning it. A kind of inquisitive mind. That's absolutely important. And what do you mean by research? What do you mean by research? In critical terms, research means questioning the status quo. Simple. Questioning the status quo. Very quite simple. Questioning the unquestionable. Why did the apple fall down? Why it had not gone up? Questioning the unquestionable. It is possible in social sciences also. I do not know teachers. I listened to Dr. Anil Sutar. faculty from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. He has narrated two case laws. Okay. One, I'm tempted to explain. First one is a housemaid and a landlady. Landlady was rich. So instead of donating the furniture to some NGO, given the furniture to housemaid. And she was working in that house for a couple of years, very sincere, very loyalty. So worth of 20,000 furniture was given. Okay, furniture was given. Thinking that she will become more committed, more loyal. And during the festivals also, she will come in the evening hours. This is my own color, okay? In the evening hours, between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. and at least clean my vessels and all those things, and she will go away. And she will not go to other flats and all that because I have given the furniture and she will be more committed. But after 20 days, she stopped abruptly coming to the house. And when phone call was made, she was not receiving the phone call. Switched it off. Cut off. See now research here. You thought that she will become more committed and loyal. And she thought that after getting the furniture, 20,000 worth and all that, she will make me work more. Better to leave. This is a totally a different theory. This is really the outcome of that. Almost new ideas, novel ideas. And one more example. I don't know whether you remember still. It's also a good example. Now, this is questioning the status quo. You give more commitment. No, it has resulted in something else. And one more thing. For example, Vice Chancellor of a university invites 5 to 6 top faculties. And Vice Chancellor says, you have to visit 6 countries of the world where great universities are found. Your entire expenses would be met by UGC, University Grant Commission. And you have to submit the report within a month. And handpicked by the Vice Chancellor. Vice Chancellor, I think, without any fear or favor, he has handpicked 6 very top professors of the university. They went there and all the expenses met by the university, and they submitted the report after 1 month. After 3 months, 2 of the professors resigned. They went there to the universities and all that. Of course, they have collected the information data. And they have submitted their resume there, thinking that best university and all that. Capable people. What the Vice Chancellor thought and what has actually happened. If you have the critical mindset, research mindset, these are the new things emerging from research. Instead of giving some general this, that, and all those things, that is not the research that anybody can give. Anybody can give the description of the secondary data, how to get the primary data, how to evaluate it. And all these things, critical thinking is very much required. How you can get the idea? How, and you have to introspect in the last 3 to 5 years, even though institution has given the opportunity, how many workshops I have attended. How many faculty development programs relating to research I have attended. If you have the answer, then you will become a researcher. Otherwise not. I'm very blunt here for your benefit only. Therefore, we can drive the horse near the water, but we cannot make a horse drink. And this is an excellent opportunity. Those who are not in a position to present, at least present it. We can repair it. We can give the suggestions. We can give the ideas and all that. So therefore, we are pushing some of you into the water. Then only you can learn swimming. And I consider the IQAC headed by Dr. Liji Santosh has taken a right decision and a very, very good initiative. I appreciate that. And I think, I don't know the exact timetable of this. maybe twice in a month or 4 times in a month. I do not know actually, but make use of all these things. And after 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, look back. And this should become the springboard, should give the cushion effect to jump. All the best to the program. Thank you so much. And today, Nidhi Chandorkar is going to present the paper, Budding Researchers. And one more thing is, which I'd like to share, is that we have taken our own teachers, 5 teachers, some 1.5 years ago. And recently, because of certain obvious reasons, Kalpana Rai Menon has to change the subjects and all that. I can see a sea of change in the presentation between the former and the latter. Sea of change. And the committee was appreciating the type of the presentation and all that. And it's all because of the involvement, engagement, and the concentration. And any idea, any knowledge of research will not fall from the sky. It should come from within, hard work, efforts, commitment, loyalty. So thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your motivating words. Now we will proceed to our first session of budding scholars, that is Introduction to Research, which will be given by our own Nidhi Chandorkar ma'am, who is presently the BMS coordinator. So I would like to give a small introduction about Nidhi as well. So Nidhi ma'am is presently pursuing her PhD under Principal Sir, and she is the most senior faculty of research methodology in our college. Not only that, she has published many research papers in national and international conferences, a true friend of mine also. And recently she had taken a session under National Law University on the same topic. So we are expecting a good intake from your session, Nidhi. Welcome you all.
So.
Welcome
I
you.
hope
And
so.
yes,
yeah,
you can start with the session.
Sure. Ma'am, can I share the screen?
Liji ma'am?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, please. Yeah. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Sahana ma'am, for introducing me. And research has been a journey for all of us. And it is a journey where every research paper, when we write, we get a huge amount of learning. So, I mean, condensing the entire, process of research or research paper writing into one session was very difficult. But yes, I'll try to do justice to the time which you are giving to me. So, as we all can begin now, we have been talking about the word research. Research originally has come from a French word known as recherche. And recherche is basically, again, a compound of 2 words, re and cherche. Basically, when you repeat the process of understanding till the time you're satisfied with the outcome. So that is known as recherche. And so when we, borrow this word in English, it literally means search again and again. Okay, till you get the solution of your problem, answer to your question. But actually speaking, research has got multiple definitions. Why we are doing this research? Is it simply for gaining knowledge? Is it simply to find out whys, or is it simply to verify the old theories? Or is it for, understanding whether you want to, what are the factors which are, affecting others? So you want to understand the cause and effect relationship of any phenomena. So there have been multiple ways of defining research, and all of us have been, involved in research for one or the other reasons. Now, let us talk about research paper. And maybe in this session, once we start we'll go reverse engineering. We'll understand what are the components of a research paper, what is the structure of research paper, and based on that, we will understand each and every component and how to write it and what to do for this particular part of research paper. So before I begin, I would like to tell one thing. Our college has been always believing equity before equality. We all have to present data. We cannot present paper. We cannot escape that. So in the first month, there are 3-4 set of teachers who are giving paper. We all will come up with our own papers. So before we present our paper, let us all come to the same level of knowledge about writing the research paper. So what is a research paper? It's research paper writing is the process of locating information about a topic, take a stand on that topic, provide support to your stand, and then organize the entire data in the form of report. And it is one of the most common form of academic writing. Now, we all know, we have been attending a lot of sessions on research, and we broadly know what are the different steps we take while doing a research. First thing is we have to decide a topic, which itself is a very scientific process. I must say, scientific plus artistic process. We are going to understand that. Then we articulate the problem. It's very important that you understand which area you're going to work on. Then frame the questions based on the research problem which we have articulated. These questions should be crisp question statements, not a paragraph. Then read a lot. In fact, once you decide your topic, from that time itself, you should start reading about it. It will help you to articulate the problem, or rather it will help you in every step of your research. So, and establish objectives, which are based on the research problem and research questions which you have identified. Objectives technically mean that it will help you to get a direction. So why this direction is important, we are going to discuss in subsequent slides. Then you have to frame propositions. That means what should be the outcome? What is the assumption related to the outcome of this research? And at the end of the research, you either accept this proposition or assumption, or you reject it. Then we collect primary data, we process it, convert it into a meaningful format, present it in a right way in which the reader is able to understand our primary data. Then analyze the data and interpret the analysis. We are going to understand also what is interpretation and what finally is conclusion. And once we are done with that, we condense the entire research process or research activity which we have done into a report. So what we'll do this time in our session today, we are going to start with the end. Okay, and we'll go for reverse engineering. We'll see how to write a report and what all should be the content and where will you get the content from, that we are going to understand in this session. So first of all, we should understand our research paper can be broadly divided into 3 parts. Preliminary part, then we have the main body where the entire research content which we have collected, we have done the calculation analysis, all those things have to be included, and finally the conclusive part. So how does a prefatory or preliminary part looks like? We all know that first thing is we have to mention the title of the paper. Title of the paper, we are going to understand how we frame the title of the paper. Then name of the author, authors, and you should be very careful when you write the order of authors. And generally in some of the journals, they actually, the author's name which is written on the top gets the maximum share of the score. And subsequently the score reduces, or actually it is less for the rest of the authors. So designation, college name, email ID, abstract, and we are going to understand what are all these things all about, abstract and keywords. So first of all, how you decide a topic. Right now I'm talking about topic, not title. So first of all, you have to identify the area in which you are interested. The interest can be because you have been thinking and reading about it a lot, or it can be something which is a hot topic or hot issue around you and you want to work on it. So, or otherwise, if you've seen any problem and you want to work on it and find the reason behind it, or maybe recommendation for that problem. But the problem is the area of your interest is very vast. For example, we will take an example. For example, why our employees are leaving the organization. Suppose there is an organization and there is attrition is very high. That means turnover is almost maybe more than 20%, which is significantly high. So you want to work on why people leave organization. Now, that is the area of your interest, but there are hundreds of reasons why people leave the organization. And there are hundreds of industry which have variety of reasons variety of reasons why people leave organization. So it is very important that you identify the scope, that you're going to work in this industry, for this industry. You're going to work on these many factors only. Otherwise, what will happen? Your research will go on and on and on, and till the life ends, your research will not end. Then we have to frame the title. And generally, but before we go to the title, let us understand how to reject or accept the topic to go ahead for your research. Many a times topic appear to be very, very attractive, but they may not be, manageable. You will not be able to do a research on that topic because getting the basic data for that topic will be very, very difficult. Like, for example, if you want to understand the unethical practices by the doctors, and you want to get that data from the doctors only, you will rarely find the doctors cooperating on that in that context. And if at all they are cooperating, they would not like to speak about it openly. So kind of, we can say the topic will not be researchable. And then it should be of your interest, very important. If you're not interested in the topic, you will not be able to continue with that. In midway, you will give up. Then it should be purposeful. That means it should give out something which will help someone, or otherwise at least enhance your knowledge. Then it should be understandable, not only by you, but by the readers also. Ethical and manageable. That means the time, the resources which you are having, would you be able to manage this topic or not? Next is title. Title, I always suggest that we should always frame the title. Title is, those collections of words which are on the top and should give the gist of entire research paper. So it's, you have to, think a lot. You should know the entire research very properly before you frame a title. So my advice to my students is generally to frame it at the end. So I'll just give you an example. Can you tell me what is wrong with that title? And the example is dissatisfaction amongst the nursing staff in India. Do you find any problem in that title? That's the title of a research. Dissatisfaction amongst the nursing staff in India.
Please use the chat box to answer her.
Yes, perfect, Richa. She said that the area is too broad. I'm talking about entire India. Then, yeah, negativeness, broad topic, dissatisfaction about what? Yes, yes. So we all can identify this is drastically wrong. Very wrong topic. First of all, before doing the research, how can you say that the nursing staff are dissatisfied? So rather than using dissatisfied, you should use the word satisfaction level, or maybe some related word. Not before your research, you are not actually, you cannot conclude that they are unhappy. Secondly, as Ravina and Richa have said, the area, even the geographical location which I have selected is very vast. When I'm talking about India, the problem in one part of India might be different in problem in other part of India. And plus, there are so many different types of hospitals. So the problems with each hospital will be different. Why people are dissatisfied? Secondly, there are 110 reasons for being dissatisfied. So I need to connect it, that which area which can increase the satisfaction or dissatisfaction level or affect the satisfaction level, that has to be studied. So that is important, that you identify the topic and the scope of topic very, very logically. Otherwise, you will not be able to complete your research and you will end up somewhere in between only. And while framing the title of the research, we generally divide the title into two parts, separated by colon. So the first part talks about the concept. That means, suppose I'm talking about satisfaction level based on organizational culture. So impact of organizational culture on satisfaction level of nursing staff, colon. A study of, you can even select a small city, a study of this particular city, of these type of hospitals, maybe private small hospitals or specialization hospital or any type of hospital. So you have to give the scope at the later part of your title and the concept at the first part of your title. Avoid using question mark statements on the title. So, and this type of title will actually tell the reader what exactly two variables, broad, variables we are considering. There might be intermediate variables, and what is the scope of this research. So this is how you actually frame the title from the topic. And I generally suggest do it at the end, because while you're doing your research, while you're reading, a lot of articles on that, you may modify the area or the scope. So don't refrain yourself by giving the title in the beginning itself. Then the next part which we were talking, other than your own introduction on the research paper, that is basically abstract. Abstract, generally what is asked for is for 200 and 250 words. And many a times you have to write your abstract before your research paper. Some, journals accept, abstract as a part of research paper and count those words also. And some, treat it as a separate part, not a part of your research paper, and will not count these words in your main research paper. It totally depends upon the journal where you are sending your paper. Then it is framed before the, the readers or even the editors of the journal, they go through your paper. They want to know what exactly is done in this particular paper. So that abstract has to be sent to them before you send the paper. So what it should include. Now, before we go ahead, I would like to tell that many of us, because we see that this particular research conference is coming and we should present a paper, and there is some topic in our mind, but we have not even started with that topic. And what we do is we frame an abstract and send it across to them. That is not technically a correct practice, because the abstract should contain these details. Over here, if you see on the point number 3, first of all, you have to explain that topic. And secondly, what are you going to achieve through this research? Basically, why you have conducted this research, that has to be explained. Then which population, we are going to study what is theoretical population and what is study population. Which population are you talking about, which is in the scope of your research? And what is the sample unit? Sample unit every time might not be persons. Like, for example, I want to do a research that, how many televisions are there in every household in Hiranandani Powai. So here the sample unit will be household, not the individuals living in the household. So this is basically, you have to identify what will be the sample unit, and broadly a rough idea about the outcome of the research. A rough idea as in 1 or 2 statements telling about what exactly you had, what was the outcome of the research, and avoid pictures and graphs. Mostly they are not accepted. So this is, you should be framing your at least half or three-fourths of your research is over. Then you will be in a position to frame correct abstract. So even if there is no conference, coming up, even then I would request all of you to start making a paper. Okay, so by the time, whenever any conference is there, good conference is there, and you want to publish your paper there, then in that, present your paper there, then in that case, you have at least the knowledge, what is the flow, you have almost done 2/3 or 3/4 of your work, and now you can prepare abstract very nicely. Then after that, the main body generally is divided into many parts. To begin with, it is introduction, statement of the problem, and then we have statement of objective and hypothesis. We'll understand where to write hypothesis in which type of research paper, where not to. Then research methodology and its content, conceptual framework, then review of literature, primary data and its presentation, data analysis and its interpretation, conclusion. So this is the main body. Okay, now what happens here is, first of all, let's just understand how to write an introduction. Many a times we just give the definitions in the introduction, but you have to explain here not only the concepts, the key terms which are used, you have to maybe define them or give the meaning of these key terms, but also you have to tell, a little bit of, past scenario and current scenario, which has instigated you to take up this topic. So basically you describe that there are some changes in the phenomena And that is why it is of my interest and I have taken that topic. So you can support your, why this topic is relevant with help of some statistical data, which is there in any newspaper article, which has inspired you to take up that topic. Okay, so your introduction should comprise of that. That is, give some recent statistical data to exhibit relevance of the research and describe the reason for selecting the scope, why you have selected. For example, I'm doing a research in Thane. My scope, geographical location is Thane or certain segment of the society. For example, I'm, want to do a research on student, but then students are of variety of types, like school students are there, college students are there. Then we have PhD scholars also, they are in some way the students. So which student am I talking about and why I've selected that? So maybe if I'm talking about, effect of social media on concentration of the students. So here I will take mention here because college students are, above the age of particular years, they are more into social media. So that is why I have taken this as a study population. And theoretical population means students in general. Study population means, for example, I want to work on, college students. Okay, so college students are there worldwide. Okay, so they are theoretical population, but we will select only SM Shetty students. They are study population. And from there, we will extract our sample using different techniques. Then the first thing is our research process actually starts with articulating a research problem. You need to define not only to the readers, but to yourself that this is what the problem is, and I'm looking for a solution. Then describe the current status of the problem, indicating the relevance of the research. Generally, it is written in paragraph. Okay, maybe depending upon the size of a research paper you are allowed to. Some journals, they allow just 2,000 words, and some journals allow 5,000 words also. So depending upon that, you have to identify what should be the size of the paragraph. And it should be to the point because the background has been already created in the introduction. So just talk about the problem. And then based on this problem, the next part which you can take up is research questions. And these should never be written in paragraph. They are only the question statements. And you have to write research questions. And these are 3-4 questions. Do not write too many questions because your research should answer those questions. So if your research is not including that part of that question, so don't include that even in research questions in your research paper. Okay. I don't know why I've added that. Okay. Then based on the research problem, research questions, now you are more or less clear what is the direction of your research. You crisply define objectives. Again, like your research questions, objectives should never be written in paragraphs. Okay, it establishes why the research is conducted, and it should always be written in statements. Beginning with to, followed by a verb, like examine, study, to find out, to examine, to study, to evaluate, and so on. So it should be crisp sentences, statements, not paragraphs. And it should make reader also understand which area you will be working on. And it will give you also direction for your future result. Now, next part is based on these research objectives, we frame the propositions of the outcome. That means these are the possible outcomes and they can be correct, they can be incorrect. Okay, so propositions generally are based, or hypotheses we can say, are generally based on your past experiences, or maybe the articles which you have already read have given you a direction that this can be probably the outcome. Generally, proposition may not be necessary for all types of researches. We will be learning about some basic types of researches while I'm going ahead. So it should not be it may not be compulsorily part of we are going to learn in case of descriptive research. We are just describing the situation. And there is no cause and effect relationship we are planning to analyze. So in such cases, you may not have hypothesis. But if, for example, I gave you an example why people are leaving the organization, we need to find out the cause of it. So there, hypothesis is necessary to be framed. Then it is generally, especially when you see the Indian research papers, you generally see them in pairs. null and alternative hypothesis. Null hypothesis, and there is that's another topic altogether, and maybe in future somebody will take that topic, how to frame hypothesis, and test it later on. So we have to understand how these pairs are framed, and there is a defined structure. You cannot frame them like any statement. You cannot frame them in paragraph. So there's a defined structure of framing hypothesis. But in some research papers, you will find only the alternative hypothesis written there. Either we reject it or we accept it. So this is basically in the beginning you have to do. And this hypothesis actually will help you in framing your questionnaire for collecting data and help you in identifying what is the data you require. That means adequacy, appropriateness, and accuracy of the data, what you require. So this is a very important part of your research paper. So this gives you a direction that what data has to be collected. And later on, we are going to learn about the analysis, a little about analysis also. And this set of this set the guideline with respect to number of variables you need to work on, analysis tool which you have to select for hypothesis testing or drawing the conclusion. Now, this is something which Principal Sir has been laying a lot of stress on. He has been laying stress on everything. But yeah, this is something which he has been describing to us again and again, that this is what is to be included here. Now, first of all, you need to understand what type of, you have to mention here in research method, what type of research are you doing? So when it comes to type of researches, there are various ways of classifying research. Okay, so first way is the type of data which is to be collected. Is it an intensive research? You're trying to find out reason. Like, for example, we all are fond of food, which we bring during our college get together. I think Lakshmi next time log jo food leke aate hain. So maybe 80% of us love it. And 20% of us are not very fond of that food. Maybe some of us are actually a hardcore non-vegetarian eater, so they may not like it. So if you talk about quantitative data, what will happen? We'll just ask whether you like it or you do not like it. But when we talk about qualitative data, we try to find out why you like it and why you do not like it. And it can be an amazing input for Lakshmi next, that what are the USPs, why people are fond of it, the food of that restaurant, and what are the reasons or the area where he can make improvement, where the owner can make improvement, and the remaining 20% also start liking it. So this is qualitative and quantitative research. Other way of dividing your research is either is a fundamental research or an applied research. Fundamental research are the one which are taken only, you are doing it for gaining knowledge. You're not going to apply the outcome or bring up some kind of theory which will be applied somewhere to solve any problem, nothing. Applied research on the other side, as the name suggests, it has an application in real life. Most of all the business researchers, medical researchers, they all are applied research because they are done to solve any problem or take any decision, make any strategy and policies and so on. Then there are, on the basis of previous researches done, there are again two types of researches, generative and exploratory. I'm giving a very, bird's eye view about all that. So generative researches are the one where already the researches have been done, concepts have been established. So you just have to work ahead and apply those concepts. Okay, you already know the background. In case of exploratory, they are the less explored area of researches. People have not done it. Maybe the first person who had this, who has come up with the concept that Earth is not rectangular or flat, it is circular. So he must have done exploratory research. And he must have found evidences that why Earth is spherical in shape. So that is exploratory. And the one which is already established and you want to test whether it is still applicable in this situation for my population, then it is generative research. The next type of classification is descriptive and analytical research. So where I was saying that hypothesis may not be required is this. Descriptive. You're simply describing a situation. How many people buy, how many people do not buy. You are not finding the reason why they are not buying it. Okay, this class has got so many girls and so many boys. You're not finding out the reasons why so many boys and girls are there. So this is basically descriptive. You're just describing a situation. Analytical means here you try to have a causal relationship. That means cause and effect relationship. Why girls are less? Okay, so that is analytical research. So in case of analytical research, definitely you require hypothesis. But in case of descriptive research, you may not require hypothesis. Then we have conceptual, another on the basis of interpretation. Basically, sometimes we simply bring in so many different theories and bring in, come out with another theory. Okay, so that doesn't require justification. Why this theory, the new theory which you have come out with, is correct? Because all the old theories are correct, so this new theory is also correct. Empirical is basically when you actually collect data. Most of us do that for our research. We actually collect data, and whatever established facts are there, we check in light of that data. So that is known as empirical research. So most of us do empirical research, and most of the time it is fundamental because we are just doing it to gain more knowledge in that particular area. We are interested in that area, and many a times it is analytical. So based on that, you decide how you have to do that. Then sources of data. The second thing which you have to write in research method is sources of data. Both secondary and primary data sources have to be, described here. So, and also while talking about primary data, you have to talk about what technique of collecting primary data, like was it an interview technique or simply an observation, or how do you, if it was a sample survey technique. So what kind of technique? So broadly, 4 techniques are there for primary data collection. Experiment, not generally taken up in social science projects. Then we have observation, interview. Interview generally is adopted. Interview, or and that focused interview is generally adopted if it is a qualitative research. So we want to know why and hows of the thing. So that is why we go for interview. Otherwise, we take a survey technique also. Now, what are the tools for collecting data? Most of the time, if it is survey technique, we use questionnaire. So questionnaire, broadly, you have to also tell how many questions are there, and maybe how many, related to that person. I mean, the personal information of that respondent has to be taken up. And in case you are conducting interview to maybe 10, 12, 30 people. So in that case, to come out with a relevant conclusion, to compare the, responses of people, you should prepare a schedule. In case of observation also, in case of interview. So in case of interview, you know what all questions have to be asked. And the same set of questions will be asked to many people. Similarly, in case of observation also, like for example, let's go back to my topic of dissatisfaction amongst nursing people, nursing staff. So I'll go to different hospitals and just observe the body language of nursing staff. So that is observation, but I'll not observe everything. I will observe only which is required for my research purpose. So that schedule has to be prepared before you or your, information collector goes out and collect the information. Then you have to talk about, yes, you cannot work on the entire, population. Okay, so you have the entire population is said to be theoretical population. Theoretical population, as I said, if I'm talking about impact of, online teaching on scores of students, college students. So all the students who are studying in college are my theoretical population. But I have to confine my research and I have to define a scope. So I take a study population that I will study only for Chandrabhan College as well as SM Shetty College. So these are my study population. And from there, I will extract sample. Now you also have to mention what was the sampling technique in case you have taken up samples. So what was the sampling techniques? So in case you are having the sampling frame, that means you are having the database of your study population. Then you can go for probability sampling. Randomly, you can select the respondents, or you can use cluster sampling or stratified sampling, depending upon, diversity in your population. And otherwise, if you do not have the sampling frame, that means you do not have the database of your study population, you have to go for non-probability sampling. So that also you have to describe here. And you also have to define who are the sample units. So every college student might not be your sample unit. So you have to tell students who are studying commerce, they are my sample units. Then tools used for presenting data. You have to give, either percentage table or pie chart, whatever you have used, and what was the analysis technique. So that thing, all these things have to be described in your research method used. Then after that, there's a small portion which many of us write and many of us add it to your review of literature. That is basically you give the working definitions. Now, working definitions means that, when you say student in your research paper, what does that student in your research paper mean? So when I say student, for me, all the students are not the students. The definition of students are the students who are in college or the students who are studying in college. Individuals who are studying in college are my students. So that working definition has to be given over here. So whenever you refer to that word like employee, students, or any other thing, consumers, so you already have given the definition of it. And any prominent model or theories which you have used, okay, during the process of your research can also be mentioned here. So, and if the topic is based on, okay, so this we have already done. And sometimes it is also included with review of literature, but ideally it is expected to be written separately. So before a person starts going ahead with your review of literature, he already knows that these are the terms and these are the meanings of these terms. Then review of literature. Most of us know that we are collecting data from research articles being written or otherwise newspaper article, even, YouTube video also can become our reference material. So all of them are our reference material. But review of literature, we all know something known as plagiarism. Okay, we all have been hearing about it. We have been working on it. So it should, review of literature, we all know is based on secondary data. But essential part is that you need to, whenever you find what is the outcome of that research, the article or research article or any research thesis you have read, you cannot write it as it is. There are two techniques to avoid plagiarism: rephrasing and paraphrasing. Rephrasing means you can change the sentence into active and into passive voice. You can change the terms which are used there. You can modify and use your own terms, to describe the same sentence. Paraphrasing means you read the entire, outcome and you connect it with your own research and write the entire outcome in your own words. But yes, even if you have paraphrased or rephrased, you should not forget to acknowledge the source. It is not your personal work. It is done by somebody else. So citation becomes very, very important. In research papers, generally the most common type of citation is parenthetical citation. Parenthetical citation means that when you write about the outcome of, when you're referring to any research paper in your review of literature, in brackets, you have to write the name of the author, comma, year of publication. So that is important in between the paragraph, within the parenthesis. But the same thing should be given in detail in references. So there are different ways like CMOS, APA, MLA, different ways of, writing the references, which I'll take towards the end of this slide. And also there is another way, and that is known as Vancouver style, in which we write footnote. Because at times we do not want to disturb our readers getting into detail by giving brackets, information about the writer and everything. But we acknowledge the writer by, having a superscript and describing that superscript at the bottom of the page. So even that is there, but I think the parenthetical one is the most common one, which all of us are using. And footnotes are mostly used when you write chapters rather than research papers. So footnote has got its own advantage, but at the same time, too much of footnote will make your paper look very cluttered. So you can decide any one of them. And when we talk about MLA and APA style of writing references, we generally give the citation within the paragraph in bracket. But if you are adopting CMOS, that is another pattern of citation and references. In that case, you should adopt Vancouver, yani footnote style. So how to write? See, it is always advised when you are collecting data from different articles, you should at the same time maintain a sheet of references. Okay, so now if it had been in print, Okay, most of us now are referring to online, sources only. So if it had been in print, suppose we are adopting MLA style. Okay, MLA stands for Modern Language Association style. So that style, in that style, what we do is we write the name in this pattern, the last name, comma, first name, full stop. And then we write the article title. The container of the article, that means the journal, has to be written in italicized. And then the detail, like for example, it's a journal, so which volume, which year was it published, and so on. And even you can give the reference of the page number. But if it's an online content, you can, along with that, you have to write the URL, that is the email, online address of that content. Okay, and when did you access it? Either you can use accessed uh, on this particular date, or otherwise retrieved on this particular date. Why this is important in case of online content is because online contents are liable to get modified, revised, or may be deleted. So you can always mention that you have referred on this particular date and it may change now. So this is basically how you actually mention the online content. Now, after that, the hard work which we have done for collecting data, whichever tool we have used. So honestly speaking, if it is a qualitative research where you have conducted interview or made observation, presenting that data in after codifying it and classifying it takes too much of time. But if you are using, doing quantitative research, that means quantifying the responses. So in such cases, you should be able to do this process of, processing the data much faster, because every response has to be classified, categorized, and codified. Okay, then only, and none of the responses, if they are accurate, you are considering for your research, should go waste, they are not included in any class, it should not happen. So when you have collected the data, see, many a times, especially when you will be guiding your students, so many a times it happens, the students have habit of asking, what is your name, what is your gender, what is your age? So if all these data are not required for your research, refrain them from asking such questions. So longer the questionnaire is, the more problematic it is to collect data. That is a fact, because we all are lazy in replying. Then second is irrelevant data. Every question will create a variable. And the person who might be, watching your presentation or reading, or even doing a Viva examination, they can ask why you have asked this question, why you have created this variable. Is it relevant for your research? If not, then you should not include. So questionnaire may only the questions, details which are required for your research, or otherwise, which will help you to contact back to the respondent, only that should be collected. Profile questions should be in the beginning always. And data collected has to be processed before, by processing, I mean, first thing is you should check the accuracy of each and every response. If the response is not complete or not accurate, either you complete it or make it accurate, or you eliminate from your responses. Also each response should be categorized. This is a classification of responses. And then only you should use that data for graphical or tabular presentations. So as I said, editing, coding, and classification is required for each responses, whether it's an open-ended question or a closed-ended question, every response should be categorized. Then avoid graphical presentation of all responses. Actually speaking, when you give your paper for publication anywhere, they have space constraint, they have word limits. So avoid graphical presentation, pie chart for everything. You'll get pie chart. We all know, we all are using Google Forms. We'll get pie chart or graph for everything. But use only those graphical presentation which are very, very important for your research paper. Then rather than that, you can use few percentage tables, which actually are, very, very powerful way of presenting the entire, collection of data which you have made. Then use pointers and percentage table to save space. Then tables and figures should be given table number in case you are using figures and tables. Every table should be given table number as well as source of the data. Now that presentation is over. Now next thing is your data analysis and interpretation. If you have established hypothesis, you have to take up data analysis. You have to find out most of the time we use hypothesis testing technique. The most common one, if you do not have the sampling frame or you do not have any parametric data, that means population mean, population standard deviation, if that is not there, you have to use, most commonly used is chi-square. Otherwise, you can, if you have those parametric data, you can use t-test, z-test, depending upon the sample size which you're using. Then there might be, some research papers without hypothesis. As I said, there might be some descriptive research papers without hypothesis. So how do you interpret? So while you're writing your, you're presenting your primary data, you also at the end write down what is the interpretation. So for example, the respondents, so many percentage were this and so many percentage replied this way. So that you can write in pointers without using any statistical technique here. But when you are working and when you have, hypothesis, you have to show, and even at times you have to show the working of, hypothesis testing. So there you have to start with, descriptive statistics like central tendencies, standard deviation, and then you have to tell which tool are you using, and you have to show the calculation working of that tool also. It can be correlation also, that also you have to show. Then outcome of the hypothesis, that is basically outcome when written in English language in statement. It is said to be interpretation. Please remember, interpretation is related to your sample. And when you make a generalized statement based on this interpretation, that is known as your conclusion. Conclusion is to be applied on the entire population, while interpretation is based on the sample, the data which you have collected. So whatever is the outcome of the hypothesis, that means either you are rejecting the null hypothesis, accepting the null hypothesis, and what does that exactly mean? So for example, I say choice of green products is not based on gender. So that is my null hypothesis. That means gender has got nothing to do with choice of green products. But my alternate says that yes, gender do influence the choice. Okay, so if I say that my calculation shows that null hypothesis has to be rejected. So in this case, I will say that the sample says that there is a significant impact of gender on choice of the green products. So this is basically how you write interpretation. From the interpretation, you conclude the next thing, that is conclusion. Conclusion is the generalized theory which you have developed. Okay, the new theory which you have developed based on your empirical research. So that has to be written. So all the points which you have interpreted have to be converted, and the outcome has to be written in conclusion. And this outcome actually belongs to your population. It is applied to the population with limitations. So, and after that, you have to write references. How to write references, which we have already taken, MLA format. So in case of, conclusion, as I said, from population, we come to the study population. From study population, we come to the sample. We take our sample, we collect data, we process the data, we analyze the data, and what the outcome of that particular data is, that has to be concluded in terms of your population. So conclusion should be objective, purely based on the data. Do not include your feelings, your past experiences, which are not there in your research paper. Whatever your data says should be your conclusion. Even if you do not maybe agree, if you do not strongly agree, that means there is something wrong with the sample responses. You may have to increase the sample size. Sometimes it happens, once we have collected the data, we cannot form a pattern of the data which we have collected. So in that case, it is always advised, increase the sample size. If only 50 people have responded, go for 100. If 100 people also, you're not able to make any pattern, then in that case, I think you can try on some more people. But if still things are not working, then you can come down to conclusion. But agar aapko data sufficient nahi lag raha, you are not able to frame any theory out of that, that means you need to collect more data. And limitations should be in terms of the scope, because you are talking about college students, but we have not included all the college students. You have taken a sample. Okay, we have targeted to this geographical location only. So these all things come together. Why limitations have to be written? Because if the outcome or the conclusion of the research is to be applied, people should know what are the conditions in which you can apply. And what are the conditions? It may not be true. Okay, it may not be truly at acceptable level. So all those things have to be written. Recommendation generally is based on conclusion. Once we have identified what are the causes and what are the outcome, we can definitely recommend if people work on this, the outcome will be better. So that recommendation has to be written. Okay, now before I conclude, we'll just quickly revise what is expected. What are the essentials when you are writing a report? Number one, I always say the data which you collect should be adequate, appropriate, accurate. If it is not, you have to reject the data. You have to or start collecting it again. So adequate means sufficient. Okay, if your population is more or less homogeneous, the responses are more or less homogeneous. Everyone likes Lakshmi next ka food. Okay, even if you take responses from 30 people, 50 people, more or less the pattern will remain same. So here you have to describe what should be, and here you will be able to understand what should be the size of your responses. But if the responses are too, I mean, the population is too heterogeneous, okay, the responses are very different from each other, then you have to have a larger sample size. Then the language should be simple, clear, avoid, any kind of slang, simple slangs and all what we are using. So that has to be avoided. Avoid shortcuts, write complete, statements and complete words properly. Like once I remember Principal Sir was explaining how to write percent and percentage. Percent is actually written in two words, per and cent. Am I right, sir? If he is there, Principal Sir is there?
He's not there, I think.
Yeah. So percent, they have to be written separately, while percentage is the same word. It's a single word. So we have to be very, very clear about the words and their accuracy also. It should be precise and concise. Concise means complete in its own aspect. Precise means to the point, not beating around the bush. It should be objective. That means your conclusion should be purely based on the data which you have collected, not about your feeling in past or what you actually feel about it or what people say about it. Then maintain secrecy to avoid interference. It happens like once you discuss your topic with someone, they will give you more ideas. And as a result, you get a lot of variables to deal with. And sometimes you have to manage your research, you have to read on your own, and you have to, make your own pathway ahead. So discussing too much, if you're discussing with your guide or any senior people, it is fine. But discussing too much with everyone will actually lead to confusions. Yes, this is something very important. And I have found that even many teachers do not, use this particular part of it. That is, the research should always be written in third person. Never I, me, my, we, not to be used. That's first person. You, yours, second person, not to be used. Only it should be written in third person. If I want to talk about me, the researcher. If I want to talk about the person who has responded, the interviewer or the responder. Okay, so respondent. So that has to be written. We in our country, no. India, we, that Indians are. You don't have to write we here. So please remember, your research paper also always should be written in third person. There should be a logical structure. And in fact, the structure which has been designed and been used by, all of, you can refer to a lot of journals which we have in the library. Okay, so these are very nicely structured. Well-defined structure is already there. So you can adopt that for your research paper. Thank you, and happy research paper writing. So if case,
Yes.
yeah, any questions are there?
Teachers, if you're having any question, you can ask directly to our teachers.
I think Preeti is more worried about Nidhi to now. It's because you got a parents meeting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. He
Can we
called
stop
me up
recording,
also.
ma'am, please?
No, it's John.
Okay, John, can you?
No, let the vote of thanks gets over and afterwards.
Oh, yeah, I'm so
Yes.
sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
So we are in the concluding session now. Nidhi, it was very, very good session actually. I must say, taking all from the basic. Actually, जो research paper अभी तक नहीं लिखे, for them I think it is very useful. For us also, of course, we learnt a lot of things.
Thank you.
The way you have taken it as from abstract till report, it was wonderful. Thank you, Nidhi. Thank you so
Thank
much. Now I'll call upon our Vice Principal, sir, Sandesh sir, to give you a formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Sandesh sir.
Yes, ma'am. It's my privilege and I'm very honored to give vote of thanks to Nidhi ma'am. I take this opportunity to thank our resource person, Nidhi Chandorkar. Nidhi ma'am, your presentation was so clear, very, very effective. It has given a footprint to all our researchers, especially even I'm so much inspired. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your great knowledge.
Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity. Yeah.
I thank our principal, Sir Dr. Sridhara Shetty, for setting up team for today's session. I take this opportunity to thank our Vice Principal and IQAC Coordinator, Dr. Leji Santosh, Research Cell in charge, Professor Sana Ravi Prasad, for planning so nice activities. I can say it's a innovative activity. Definitely, ma'am, we will be very happy to listen different speakers, different researchers. Thank you so much, madam, for starting this power-packed session. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants who are very active for participating in today's session. Thank you one and all.
Yeah, thank you everyone for your messages and compliments. Yes, there are some advice.
Ashwini is having some question, I guess.
It's the comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
John, recording.